as a result of our little blizzard thing after my cleanup. About 26 inches of snow or so. You can't even see those trees no more. And Monday they're predicting rain. Gotta love New England. It's nice out now though. It's actually pretty warm in the sun. Oh well. Back inside to go play. Now that we got outside all cleaned up, we can get on to our project. So our project is going to be a tailstock tap and die holder. And this video is going to concentrate on just machining this Morse taper. I wanted to do a Morse tapered shank on the holder because one, it's more fun to machine rather than doing just a straight shank, and two, if you have this in your tailstock, I mean, I'm going to make this comfortable enough to hold with your hand. I didn't want to have this huge piece of metal sticking out and then also your drill chuck and just may have this huge long contraption. Because the basic premise is the Morse taper is going to be in your tailstock. You'll have a rod, which I haven't figured out the length yet, and then you'll have a body. The body sits on the rod and will be allowed to spin. So up front you'll have a device to hold the dies, and also I'm going to incorporate some sort of tap holder to it too, which I haven't figured out yet. And you'll grab it with your hand as the lathe is running at a slow speed, and you'll be able to, with hand pressure, stop this shaft from turning, and it'll tap and feed itself. And then when it hits a shoulder, when you hear it feel it hit the shoulder, you can let go and it'll spin on the shaft without feeding itself in. And for the heavier cuts, I'm going to put a bar that you'll be able to hold too, or rest against the ways. So, I mean, those are in upcoming videos, but basically we're going to concentrate on this Morse taper, so that way people that don't want to, build the whole project can see how to do the Morse taper with the tailstock offset. By all means, if you have a taper attachment, use it. If your compound is long enough to accommodate a Morse taper, use your compound. It's a lot easier, but my compound does not have enough travel to be able to cut the Morse taper. The Morse taper, the actual tapered part that fits into the tailstock itself, is, mine's a number 2 and 9/16. Right there. And these charts you can get on the internet. It gives you basically the large diameter on this end and the small diameter on this end. Now, you'll notice, let me see, where did I put my... Oh, there it is. This taper is longer than 2 and 9/16. The reason for that is you have to have the point sticking out. So basically the only part that sits into the tapered quill is up to about here. Now if you measure right where the quill ends and this end, you'll get your 700 thousandths here and your 572 thousandths here. These are standards. They're all Morse tapers are, depending on size obviously, but all Morse tapers are standard. And we're obviously going to be machining this between centers, so we're going to have to figure out how much we want to offset our tailstock. Okay, now we do have a formula for our tailstock offset, because I know you guys love formulas so much. So, here's what we got. Your amount of tailstock offset is equal to the length of the part. Now, not the length of taper, the actual length of the piece you're cutting, which in my case here is 8 inches long. Multiply that by your taper per foot, which is, you can find in your chart, divide that by 24. So our amount of offset equals 8 times 0.5994, which is our taper per foot, divided by 24, equals 0.1998, which is pretty damn close to 200,000, so we're going to call it that. Now, I do have enough travel in the tailstock to offset a 200 thousandths. Now, here's the thing. you would think that the longer the part, the smaller the tailstock offset. But that's not true. It's actually the smaller the part, the smaller your tailstock offset. So let's, just for S and G's here, put in 6. We have a 6-inch piece times 0.5994 divided by 24. We would only have to offset our tailstock 150 thousandths with a 6-inch piece. So you can kind of see how that works and measure your piece out by the amount excuse me, that you're able to offset your tailstock. I'm using 8 inches because I'm going to be able to do the taper and then have that shank rod all in one piece. Also, this is a piece of 3/4 inch that is center drilled and faced on both ends, because our large diameter on our Morse 2 taper is 700 thousandths, so that'll give us plenty of meat to go. Now, as far as running on centers goes, you've seen in my other videos you've seen me do it, but just want to show you a quick thing. This is your Morse 3 dead center that'll go on your headstock. And you've seen in my other videos, you can actually see a little line right here. Probably doesn't show up on camera, but that's where the spindle taper ends. This much of this sticks out of the spindle. Now here is, and it's actually an original South Bend part, very old. As you see, it's in metal clad boxes, metal edges. But here is a Morse Taper 3 spindle sleeve with a Morse 2 dead center inside of it. Now I'm assuming this looks like 2 pieces, but I tried pressing this out and I can't get it out, so I don't know how pressed that is in there, if it's bonded or whatever, but either way, you can see the size difference. So you gain about, it'll probably actually be sitting more around here, so you actually gain about a 1/2 inch or so on your length towards your headstock, which will give you more of a positive engagement for your lathe dog. Just something to be aware of. So let me go over to the lathe and we're going to set up our tailstock offset, and we're going to use that test bar that I've machined a few videos back. If you need to know how to make one of these, it's very, very simple. I do have a video of it, but it's basically face both ends, center drill both ends, run it between centers, and true up one end of it. That's the basic idea of it. So let me put this in the lathe and get a dial indicator set up on it so we can offset. Okay, I have my test bar mounted between centers. Now before I did this, I went and used this test bar and that twin collar one that I made to make sure that my tailstock was in alignment, and so we got that all set. I did have to add, to get the, I have enough room for the 200 thousandths, but the little set screw on the base of the tailstock was too short to give me the 200 thousandths, so I had to put in a longer one. So I want to offset this 200 thousandths. Now it doesn't matter the length of your bar. 200 thousandths offset is 200 thousandths offset, whether it's 12 inches away or 6 inches away. The only reason why that comes into play is because the amount of angle that you have when you're closer or farther away. So I loosened up the other side, the other set screw on the other side, and we're going to pull this tailstock towards us to make the end of the bar smaller, and towards the headstock is going to be the larger side of our taper. So. There's 100. And there's 200,000. So now, remember that number, write it down, because when we're done with this, since we know how much we offset the tailstock, we can just push it back that much and double check, and we should be right where we need to be. So now I'm going to just snug up the other set screw. Make sure it doesn't pull that tailstock any. And let me set up the bar between centers and get you a better angle. Alright, I got you to the best overhead view I can get so you can see the taper being cut really well. I'm going to be turning at a relatively slow speed because of the fact that I do have the drive dog hanging out here, which is going to cause an imbalance. I just don't want a lot of vibration in the part. And let's get going on cutting this. The one thing that you do want to make sure of is that you have enough clearance on your tool to your part, because now your part is tilted towards you, so you want to make sure you're actually cutting and not rubbing, so just adjust your tool post accordingly. should be pretty damn close. So let's do the measurements here. So we want 2 9/16. 625. Alright, so let's make a mark. I know the camera probably can't pick up on that, but this mark right here is where I want my 700 thousandths diameter. This isn't going to be extremely accurate because I'm just using the dial calipers. So let me get in here best I can. It's about 5 thousandths off, and we want 572 at the end, the very end. $575. So I'm going to take another quick pass, take a couple of thousandths off. And then that should be it. And then the rest of the fit I can kind of draw a file out. Alright, let's see how close we are. We should be dead on the end here. $570, and then 2.562.5. Right about there. I got exactly just about 701 according to my calipers, so should be pretty damn close. Let me grab. I'm just going to give this a quick polish, get rid of those tooling marks. Quick polish here. Now what I want to do, or try to do, is take that one, hold them opposite of each other, and see if they equal both sides here. 308. I don't know if I can. Right here, I'm measuring. Let's see. On the bottom there, and then this. I don't know if you can. The camera will focus there. It says 322 thousandths, but or 1 inch 322. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 inch 322. And right there, we're at 23. So we're within a thousandth of whatever this is there. Now, what I want to do is let me take the camera down. I'm going to blue this, and we're going to check it against our actually, before I do that, what we're going to do is just take the very end, touch off. I'm going to take about 25 thousandths, and we're just going to cut a relief at the very, very end. Maybe just a little bit more. Take another 20. There you go. Now, all that is to if you drop it on the end, or from hitting the ram inside, that it doesn't mushroom the end, or if it does, it will still fit. It should take more than that. Take more. You come in and take a full 100. I like that better. Alright, now let me get a better angle for you, and we're going to test our taper. Alright, time to test fit our taper. Now, I still have it in the lathe dog in case we got to put it back in. I have bluing on it. So, crank out the tailstock a little bit. Seat it. Give it a quick little twist. Back it off and see if it self-ejects. Which it barely does. Alright, you can see right here. We're hitting hard right at the top. It means I have to take a little bit more off, be able to get this whole thing to seat. So we're so close that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand draw file it until I get this to seat perfectly. I'll take a little bit here and then retry it again, and then just keep going back and forth. So rather than put you through all that, I'll show you the last couple of steps and what we end up with. Alright, after some filing and back and forth, we got ourselves a nice fit. I don't know if you can see here, but we're hitting here, we got some hits here, we're hitting here, and spots in between, all along here. Basically we have one ring from here to here, one ring on the very tip, that's about a 1/4 of an inch wide, and then you got a little line here and some hit here. Now I just compared that to the live center, and you can see that we're hitting here hard around the edge. We're hitting right here and here, so it's actually better than the center I've been using. So and also, let me just swing over to the lathe itself. When you put it in and seat it, does not rotate, and it will self-eject. So that's pretty much going to be the basis for our part, and I'm going to turn the rest of this here down to the diameter that we need. So right now, let me get this tailstock rather back in line to where we need it. And now we want to get our tailstock back to center line, so my dial indicator in here is touching up against the turn side of that test bar. I'm going to crank in. There's 0, 100 thousandths, 200 thousandths. So we're going to bring our bar out of here, crank our carriage down to the other side. A little bit further, just to get the carriage all the way down. Down to the same spot on that bar, or same distance away from the center. Now we move our tailstock away from us 200 thousandths. Is 100. And there's 200. Now we're going to double check that, but I want to put a little bit more of a sensitive indicator in there. So let me just change that out real quick. I have my more sensitive indicator on here, and I have my bar back in place. Whenever you do this, just make sure you do lock the quill down, because that'll tend to skew your readings a little bit. So we're going to bring this in here, and I know you probably can't see it, so I'm going to try to zoom into it, but I'm just going to load it about 5/10 thousandths or so, zero the indicator, then without moving the compound, crank down to the other side. Tighten up. Now you can see that I'm off, and I have to go away from me about 5 thousandths. The reason why that is because the second time I did that indicator, when I had the bigger one in there, I didn't lock down the quill, and that's why I'm off. So if I bring this in, until we hit 0. Snug up this side, make sure that doesn't bump me off to 0. And now I can double check tighten up my quilt, and you might be able to see, zoom in right there, we're right on 0. So now we're back in line. I can do any other center turning that I need to do, or I can put this piece in a chuck and turn down that diameter that we need. So let me get to that. I'll set it up in a second and give you a better view. Okay, right here is the beginning of my taper. So I want to turn this shank down to a 1/2 inch because when I have the whole thing together, that there's going to be a through hole of 1/2 inch because that's going to be able to take, if you're threading a long piece, it'll be able to go into the shank of the holder. But anything over 1/2 inch, I'm going to end up single pointing. So that's why I'm going to turn this down to 1/2 inch, or just a shade under 1/2 inch, because I'm going to remount the body for 1/2 inch. Alright, just to show you, just by using that test bar. $505.5. $504.1. So, or about 1.5 thousandths of taper in the shank just by using that little tailstock. But that's not really gonna mess with us too much. So, if we really wanted to, actually, we can pull this out a little bit more. So, actually, give me a second. Let me pull this out 1/2 thousandth and see what happens. Okay. $502, and 3/10. Chip under there. I've on 1.8, so we got that pretty damn close. Well, let me take another 3. And there's the start of your finished product. You can cut this back a little further if you want to. I might end up doing that. I haven't really decided yet. But there it is. That's going to be the base. And then you're going to have the holder and everything up front. So that's it for this video. Next one will be on making the body of it, I guess.